They didn't just settle a succession, they engineered a seismic shift in global media power. When the Murdoch family finalized a $3.3 billion deal in 2025, decades of feuding, legal drama, and political maneuvering erupted into a new era, crowning Lachlan Murdoch the sole guardian of the world's most controversial news empire. Rupert Murdoch didn't just build a media company. He engineered an information empire that could tilt elections, make presidents, and condition how millions interpret reality. Over 7 relentless decades, he acquired, reshaped, and weaponized influence across 3 continents. From Fox News and the Wall Street Journal in the United States, to the Times and the Sun in the UK, to Sky News and sprawling newspapers across Australia. At its peak, his reach wasn't merely massive, it was behavioral. Fox News alone wasn't just the most watched cable network, it actively shaped the political identity of half of America. Isn't that terrifying and fascinating at the same time? When you can influence what people think is true, you're not in the media business anymore. You're in the power business. Through dual-class share structures, Murdoch retained direct control of both Fox Corporation and News Corp, no matter how many billions flowed through public shareholders. He didn't just own media, he built a fortress around it. And yes, HBO's Succession was directly inspired by this family. But the real Murdoch story makes the show look like light drama. Because what was coming next was not entertainment, it was a war over who controls the truth. And here's where everything fractures, because unlike most billionaires, Rupert Murdoch didn't have one obedient heir, he had 6. Prudence, Elizabeth, Lachlan, James, Grace, and Chloe. Each raised in different countries by different mothers, exposed to different ideologies. Imagine the psychological battlefield that creates. This wasn't just about money, it was about who gets to control reality itself. From early on, Rupert quietly positioned Lachlan, his oldest son from his second marriage, as the ideological successor, the conservative torchbearer, the one most like him, the one most willing to keep the empire politically hard right. James, in contrast, leaned progressive and repeatedly clashed with Fox's direction. Elizabeth had the creativity and media instinct, but not the appetite for political warfare. And Prudence, the eldest, but always the least involved. Grace and Chloe, too young to fight, but destined to inherit power. Now here's the nuclear moment. Rupert secretly moved to amend the family's trust, the mechanism that controlled voting power, and rewrite the rules to ensure Lachlan would outrank his siblings forever. That sparked a legal war in Nevada, chosen specifically because of its extreme privacy protections. No cameras, no transcripts, no leaks. Can you imagine one of the world's most powerful media dynasties battling for control of truth in a courtroom nobody is allowed to see? The trials were so bitter, so personal, insiders say HBO's Succession looks cute by comparison. All lawsuits were finally buried, literally sealed, by September 2025. But the empire would never be the same again. And then came the moment that would permanently redraw the Murdoch dynasty, September 2025. After months of sealed hearings and power law strategizing, a deal was finally struck. A $3.3 billion succession settlement, engineered not to divide the empire, but to lock it under one ruler, Lachlan Murdoch. Here's how it worked. A brand new trust was created, one that would centralize control under Lachlan. Into that trust, Rupert transferred 36% of Fox Corporation's Class B voting stock and 33% of News Corp's Class B shares, the only kind of shares that actually carry decision-making power. These are not normal shares, these are kingmaker shares. Whoever owns them dictates the empire. Prudence, Elizabeth, and James, the 3 siblings most opposed to the hard-right direction of Fox, were offered $1.1 billion each to sell and permanently exit the power structure. They took the deal. Each walked away with near unfathomable wealth, but zero future voting power. The cash-out was set at roughly 80% of active market value, which is incredibly high for a private buyout. Why overpay? Because this wasn't just a transaction, this was a purge disguised as a settlement. one clean move, 3 heirs out, Lachlan's control was now structurally unchallengeable. Can you imagine having the power to literally pay your rivals out of history? And that's exactly what this was, a surgical removal of future opposition, a golden exile, a bloodless coup funded by the empire they helped build. The Murdoch succession wasn't a compromise, it was a consolidation, and the scale of it had never been seen before. The old Murdoch family trust, the one that gave all 4 elder siblings equal voting rights, has now been completely dissolved. In its place, the settlement created a new, surgically engineered trust that locks Lachlan Murdoch in as the undisputed controller of the empire until the year 2050, not as a temporary custodian, as a guaranteed ruler. This is key. His younger sisters, Grace and Chloe, are still beneficiaries, but only in the financial sense. They will inherit money, but not power. No voting rights, no editorial says. They are paper shareholders, not decision makers. This wasn't just a succession plan. This was a future-proofing mechanism. Lachlan now operates through LGC Holdco, a private control hub that unifies his voting authority across Fox Corp, News Corp, and every major outlet under the empire. This bypasses the siblings who once tried to dilute or redirect the company's ideology. In simple terms, no internal dissent can ever reach the boardroom again, which also means Fox News, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Post, and other core assets will remain conservative by structural design, not preference, design. Some analysts warn that this is now arguably the most concentrated media control structure in the Western world. Dual-class shares amplify Lachlan's influence far beyond his economic stake, giving him power that even majority shareholders cannot override. Isn't it wild that one executive now has more influence over American political media than most elected officials? And this is exactly how dynasties are built to outlive their founders. The fallout from this succession isn't contained to family drama. It actively reshapes the global news and political landscape, because with Lachlan now structurally locked in, Fox News and its affiliated outlets are guaranteed to maintain a hardline conservative editorial direction for the next 2 decades, regardless of public blowback or market shifts. This isn't ideological drift, it's ideological preservation, exactly as Rupert intended. That matters because Fox News remains the single most influential force in right-wing American politics, especially during election cycles. Its narratives ripple into Congress, campaign strategy, voter perception, and even judicial discourse. With Lachlan in charge and no progressive sibling able to interfere, the empire becomes even more predictable in its political alignment. For conservative power brokers and presidential candidates, this is a blessing. For moderates and democracy scholars, it's a nightmare. But there's another layer: corporate governance. Global investors and watchdogs are now raising alarms about the extreme centralization of editorial power in a publicly traded company. Imagine a media empire this large with virtually no internal mechanism left for dissent. Does that sound like stability or a controlled monopoly of thought? Some analysts argue that this structure guarantees long-term continuity, preserving brand identity and loyalty. Others warn it may alienate future generations and trigger regulatory pressure. But one thing is certain: this was not just a family succession. It was a geopolitical decision. Behind the billion-dollar chessboard were very real emotional fractures. Rupert's 6 children, raised across different continents by 3 different mothers, were never just heirs. They were political opposites, shaped by different worlds. Lachlan, the loyal conservative, now rules with unquestioned authority, flanked only by his youngest sisters, Grace and Chloe, who remain passive beneficiaries. They will inherit wealth, but never power. They are legally protected spectators to history, not participants. Meanwhile, Prudence, Elizabeth, and James have effectively been bought out of the family legacy. Each walks away with around $1.1 billion, free to build their own futures on their own ideological terms. Freedom, yes, but also exile, not by force, but by transaction. When your father pays you to leave, do you feel liberated or erased? Court documents, sealed but partially leaked, revealed not just strategy, but bitterness. Siblings accusing each other of betrayal. Legal letters written like personal attacks. Private texts describing Lachlan as the last person who should control truth. Can you imagine watching your family empire, the thing you were born into, get re-engineered to exclude you forever? This wasn't just succession. It was a controlled emotional detonation, executed with signatures instead of explosions. What the Murdochs executed wasn't just a family deal. It was a masterclass in power engineering. Every move was rooted in legal structure, not emotion. And it all began with Nevada's private trust laws, intentionally chosen because they allow billionaire families to conduct full-scale succession wars without ever exposing evidence to the public. No press, no leaks, no subpoenas from foreign governments. Total information control. The buyout itself was an elegant trap, funded by public share sales and standstill agreements that legally forced the departing siblings to never challenge Lachlan's power again. Not just today. Call it a golden parachute or an elite gag order, the result is the same. And here's the most staggering piece. Rupert Murdoch orchestrated all of this at 94 years old. He didn't just pass on power, he architected it for decades beyond his own lifetime. Isn't that the ultimate move? Not to win power, but to design a system where you can't lose it, even after death. This wasn't wealth preservation. This was dynasty weaponization. With Lachlan Murdoch now locked in as the unquestioned successor, the world's most controversial media empire enters a new, sharper era, not of transition, but of enforcement. The 2050 expiration, built into the new trust, quietly functions as a timer, not for uncertainty, but for the next power battle. Until then, the structure is airtight, unbreakable. The $3.3 billion settlement didn't just end decades of internal war, it hard-coded the future of Fox, The Wall Street Journal, and The New York Post into one political direction. No split leadership, no future referendum, no ideological drift. But the real question now shifts outward. What happens when one man holds this much media influence in an age where elections can hinge on narrative control? The Murdoch story isn't ending. It's entering its most dangerous phase, because now it's fully intentional. If this deep dive into the Murdoch power shift fascinated you, hit like, subscribe for more untold empire stories, and ring the bell so you never miss our next expose. The next dynasty we unravel might be even more dangerous.